Welcome back to Wash Talk, the Carwash Podcast. I'm your host, Rich DiPaolo, and joining me today we have Tim Hogue, CEO of Modernwash Buildings and Solutions. Tim, welcome back to Wash Talk.
Hey, Rich, glad to join you. Good to see you too.
Yeah, good to see you again. Saw you a few weeks back in late April. You were very generous with your time, spending some time with me and my team at the Car Wash show. I'm sure it was very, very busy for you, and I was happy to meet with you then. And I'm not just saying that because you had plenty of Werther's Originals in your candy dish, which I took probably more than my fair share. I'm sure, Tim.
That's all right. That's fine. You're welcome anytime, Rich.
Well, I'm sure that car wash show was a busy time for you. Have such a beautiful booth, and I know a lot of folks were visiting you. So, what did you see and hear at the show that maybe piqued your interest the most this year, Tim?
Well, I guess more than anything, Rich, I was excited to see that there was a lot of interest. I guess that's my main thing. We were a little concerned, last couple of years, and the industry's been a little bit different. I think foot traffic may have been down at the show, but the leads that we got were very quality. And so it's nice to see, and nice to see a lot of individuals coming back into the industry as opposed to just corporate entities. So I guess that was the main thing at the show. My takeaway was we were busy, even though it seemed like the foot traffic may have been off somewhat, but the leads have been quality and have proved to continue to be that since the show as well. So.
Yeah, I noticed a lot of new faces myself this year, just walking around the aisles. So definitely the excitement in car washing hasn't seemed to waver at all, at least at that show. One of the things I learned while visiting your booth, Tim, is that you design buildings for other industries, right? And this car wash industry is so particular in that it's a different type of environment than I'm sure than you're used to building in other industries. Obviously, it's a wet environment. There's chemicals involved. So I'm
Right.
curious when you're designing a car wash building, and I'm sure you get a lot of crazy. I wouldn't call them crazy, but out of the box thinking. I'm sure people want to design their buildings around a specific brand or theme. So how much attention is paid to form over function and vice versa when you're designing these beautiful car wash buildings that you design?
That's a good question, Rich. I, just thinking about that, of course, a car wash, we accept it a few certain ways. You've got to have a tunnel. You've got to have an equipment room. There's certain things that have to be arranged in the same order pretty much every time. Although we've done 2-story equipment rooms and some crazy stuff, especially. So, the form or the function of the wash pretty much is set in place most of the time, right? I mean, it may be that it has to alter on the site in an odd way, or maybe have a kind of a different type of entrance or exit situation than most typical retail sites would. But most of the function determines a lot of things. But now the form, that's where we can kind of put our hands on it and massage it into maybe something that's a little bit different, than a standard looking building, but the form pretty much denotes a lot of things. And then we work beyond that. And in the industry, we've noticed, some changes over time with our structures. We're trying to include more PVC on interior wall spaces to protect things from chemicals that seemingly are a little bit more aggressive anymore, just to clean the car quicker, So we're trying to do things in the building that help the owner to make that maybe less of a maintenance issue, like with glass. And we've always, we were kind of foremost at daylighting, but we realize glass is a maintenance issue. So we try to offset the glass more so, maybe offset the tunnel to some degree, and with the equipment, and maybe have some shrouds as an option to keep overspray from the glass as much. So there's a lot of little tricks that kind of follow into the form, but they serve the function of the car wash too, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and for the rest of this interview, I want to focus on on a specific topic that helps these operators realize what you're building and kind of bring them into your vision, if you will. And that's with this virtual modeling trend that we're seeing. And I understand Modern Wash is working on or using a virtual walkthrough software. So, what inspired the development of this virtual walkthrough software, and how does it enhance the planning and pre construction phase for clients?
Well, virtual or augmented reality has been a little around for a little bit, and we had toyed with a few things, but when my son had a set of VR headsets, that he used in gaming, and I put those on, and I was blown away. Now, this has been about, I don't know, 5 years ago. It was early on in augmented reality, and I was blown away because the sets that the combat game that he was playing, but it was the architecture that they had created, and you could really see it, walk through it, get an idea of it. And that I guess is the first start, and that may have been longer than 5 years ago, but we've been trying to strive to that more and more because, when a client buys a building from us, there's a gazillion decisions, right? I mean, there's decisions on what brand of equipment may determine some of the building and the building itself, some of the wall arrangement, some of the positioning of the equipment per manufacturer. That's all different. So you've got decisions about equipment, you've got decisions about colors, you've got decisions about how the site is placed, and of course we try to help with a client because I don't have a warehouse full of buildings that I can just say pick one out, right? So what we've started to do more so, of course, obviously we work in what's called BIM. It's a building information model. And we've done that for the last, whatever, I don't know, almost 18 years, but it's a 3D architectural space. So that when we model the building, we're modeling everything in an augmented reality of a type when we draw the building. It's not just 2D on a drawing, it's actual 3D. So every bolt, every washer, everything is in our drawing set. So, with a client, when they came in and they wanted to decide what model, obviously we can show them photos of buildings that we've done, and we can do renders. But what's even another step forward is how about we put you in the building. And so the augmented reality, the walkthrough, is kind of our doing that we prepare the model in such a way that if you've got a set of headsets, like we bring some to the show for everybody to see, and a lot of people have got these, or the kid has got them, or augmented glasses of some type. But you can also do it on the computer screen where we set points and you can just take the mouse and walk through the structure and kind of get a real feeling about the space, the color. We've had clients even go as far as to pick how their furniture will be arranged in the offices because they actually could see the building in more of a true in a true representation, if that makes sense, rather than just a little screenshot, so to speak. So the walkthrough is kind of the first step that we looked at it being a benefit. And working with our BIM software, which we've kind of integrated our own templates in over the years. And then we bought into other software, and now we've had to make them talk to one another. And that's been a little bit of a headache, but it's worked out finally. But the benefit is a client can actually see the building, and if you put a pair of headsets on, you actually can look around just like you're inside the structure, from everything from the cashier window to the tunnel entrance. And we can model as much as a client would like to see, from everything from the equipment from the manufacturer to the displays that will show inside on the screens. So it's a very powerful tool in helping a client make decisions, maybe initial decisions about how the building will be, but also I think it can very well help with color, placement, site. We've actually expanded this where you can be outside the site and actually look around and see everything, every parking space, every vacuum canopy. It depends on what level the client needs help to see that. So that's kind of step one, was with using the virtual walkthrough, is to help with a client to make initial decisions and ongoing decisions. Step two, which we can talk about in a few minutes if you'd like to, is helping a contractor to be able to construct the building. Because I think, as you and I talked before, one of the biggest problems we see in construction today is, there's a lack of folks coming into the trade and becoming as qualified as we'd like to see. So we're trying to look for tools that will help our company in the future to be able to relay to the builder on site, how does this building come together? How do these high-end claddings that maybe the client has chosen, how do they arrange on the building? How do they install properly? Everything from trims to window placement to everything else. But we can go into that deeper later. But that there's a twofold approach. And first of all was to help the client make decisions. But the second, and even maybe possibly more profound, might be to help the building be built in such a manner that would increase the speed as well as the correctness of the installation of the building.
Sounds like the only thing missing is some cherry scented soap, and that demonstrated. Maybe you could wave an air freshener in front of the noses there. Got the
I don't have the smell-o-vision figured out yet. I'm trying. But maybe we can work on that too. So yeah.
Right. So that all sounds amazing and interesting, and maybe now's a good time to mention, Tim, you're nice enough to send over some examples to us ahead of time, which we're planning to overlay on top of this video interview. So folks out there listening to the audio podcast, feel free to jump over to our YouTube channel to watch this video interview. And Tim was nice enough to show some examples or send some examples to share with our audience. So sounds like you've given us a pretty good overview on what a client can expect when using the virtual walkthrough software for the first time. Can changes be made in real time, or do you just kind of take notes and then go back and tweak the software to show them a different model?
Well, and that's a good question too. Real time, we're not quite there yet because it does take a little bit. When you go into the model, you may alter other things as you're making changes. So it's good to take time to make sure that everything is where it should be, when you get done. But we can make notes and we can make changes. It's a pretty quick, right the next day and have it back to the client to where they can see, what it looks like.
Right down to the nuts and bolts. So let's shift our attention to, like you said, the contractor, and you've gone into it a little bit here, but let me officially ask the question. It's from a contractor's perspective. How does this software help streamline communication, maybe reduce change orders, and prevent construction delays?
Right. Well, reduction in change orders. I mean, change orders are not we're not happy about change orders, and I'm sure clients are not happy about change orders. And so, but in our world, we're dealing with construction companies. And once again, this is not to throw off on any construction group or anything, but we are in a time where, quite frankly, younger folks have just not been getting into the trades as much. And we're hoping to see that turn around. And there are some things that give us hope and see maybe a change in that, maybe more vocational training taking place and some things like that. But many times it's frustrating to us because, we want the client to have the ultimate best expression of our modern wash building that we can. And obviously we do our part inside the factory, where we fabricate and do all those things in-house. Then we ship it out. Now we do have some authorized erectors that will come and put the frame and the roof up. And actually we have a few that have been authorized and trained at our facilities on how to do our scope. So in other words, put on the materials that we provide, right? They don't go to the depth of the concrete or the electrical or things like that. But as far as the scope of materials that we give, So we're trying to do some things that do benefit the client and make sure they have the best expression. Well, now let's take the contractor. And in a lot of cases, the contractor may have subbed parts of the job to other contractors. And we run into several times where a subcontractor will contact us and they're on site, but they don't have the drawings with them. They actually don't have the plan set there. This happens in every industry I'm in. It's not just car wash, it's in every industry. And so what we're trying to do is then make it easy, different ways that we do this. A subcontractor can scan our QR code and it will automatically download the plan set to their phone. So we want to try to, as quickly as we can, get that information to them. If they have an iPhone or an Android that has a screen, then this is the next step. And what we would like to do is to actually bring this augmented reality into practical use. And so we know we will not see contractors on a job site wearing a headset that they can't see what's actually taking place. They're liable to walk in front of a dozer or, or off of a roof so we realize that's really not practical yet, but we do see VR or augmented headwear that is being adopted in factory settings. And so we're watching that, obviously. But the next step for us is obviously have a screen. And so if the contractor has an iPhone or an Android where they have a screen, then we can actually download our virtual walkthrough with them. Now, the virtual walkthrough for them is a different thing than it is just for the client, because what we intend for them to see in that is that they can actually look at the building and see where maybe the ACM, the cladding that we use a lot, or whether it's a metal panel or whatever it may be, Rich. If it's a metal panel or whatever, they can actually look at this 3D real representation and they can scan around it. They can take their finger and actually move through it, and they can see where a panel stops and starts. We can number the panels so that not only the numbering system or the grid on the drawing set shows them what panel goes where, but if they don't have them with that, if they don't have that plan set with them, then they could look at this and it'll actually say panel C1 and where the attachment goes, and it'll actually show where that fastens. So they can actually take that and go through layers of our building, like through the wall, not just the exterior of the wall, but actually look at the framing and examine whatever they need to while they're on the site, if that makes sense. I mean, this can get very involved, but at the basis as the user level, it's not difficult at all. It's just basically being able to use the screen of the phone and navigate around the structure. And maybe through that, you will see that, well, this cladding stops here, at this point, but maybe a stone cladding then starts right after, and it's numbered, and you can refer to the drawing set if you've got it downloaded, or you can take the augmented reality screen and you can actually see how it looks on the building. And I know this may sound simplistic, but so many times we work with subcontractors that they, much like a client, they need to have the understanding of how this looks in the real world, if that makes sense. I mean, several of them have trouble with looking at 2D drawing sets. And all of us guys that are used to that, we're used to that. But the 3D promises to give so much more, because you can actually then get deeper into the project, and you can take people that maybe they don't have the skill to see the 2D as well, but they can certainly see the 3D representation. And in our world, this is a huge benefit because we do run into this quite often where a subcontractor has showed up on the job site and they're just not quite equipped with the drawings that they need to have on hand. And so we want to help. We want the client to be happy. We want the best representation, the best building that we can possibly give them. And if we can do things on our end that helps on the finish end, then this is another tool simply to help us get to that point.
Interesting. Yeah, as you mentioned, everybody is, so diverse. Those builders out there, different age ranges, different understanding of building and designing and all that. So it sounds like you're trying to make it as simple as possible. And having had experience myself putting together IKEA furniture, I definitely appreciate everything when it's labeled and I can see it on a diagram and it makes the job much easier. So is there anything on the wish list, Tim, that maybe is not available now with virtual modeling? How do you see it evolving? What will these tools become standard practice in design build projects?
Well, we would like to see, obviously we want to see more developments, Rich, in all of this, and maybe it takes us longer to model this. This is an extra cost if a client does want to come forward and do a full virtual set, because it does take the designer more time. We have to be more particular and more exacting, I suppose, because not only are you drawing the drawing on 2D, for the engineers and the other architects involved and the client. But you're also then doing the 3D work, and need to make sure all of that meshes correctly. So we don't want one page not agreeing with another, right? You want everything to harmonize. So I guess from our standpoint, it would be nice. It does take some time, and there is a time involvement in that. But we feel like that time involvement with us early on pays off in the field, because at that point, then the contractor who it costs you even more money, they're out there working and the clock is ticking, obviously. And we don't want them to slow down and have confusion. You'd be surprised. I believe that there is a lot of downtime sometimes in the construction portion of this because of just questions, most of which would be simply answered. And of course, we're always available. We answer the phone. I mean, somebody here, human, will always answer our phone and get you an answer you need. But we realize there's a lot of guys that don't call, and so we want to get the information to them quickly. And if we can do that and it saves the client time, time is money. In the car wash industry, let's face it, when you're building a car wash, time is money, because the time it takes you to build, you're not washing cars, right? So time, it's all about time. And so as building as quickly as you can, and then also making it what the vision should be, not missing the mark on how it was constructed, and in most cases, we don't see grievous errors, but we do see some things. Sometimes we'll go to a building and we'll see trim that was not maybe put on correctly, and things that just, we want the client to have the best building they can have. And so we want to make sure we're helping to do that. I've been in the construction industry for 40 years, and I'm always looking for things to help streamline the other end of the process. I mean, we're in manufacturing technically, but we realize what we manufacture, you've then got to have someone complete on site. So we want to be a benefit as much as we can on that end.
Certainly, beautiful buildings and exciting times in virtual modeling for sure. And if they do ever get around to incorporating fragrance into these demos, you know where you heard it first. I want to get my royalties, Tim. Right? So don't forget
Now,
about
hey,
me.
we need to develop this smell-o-vision together, I suppose. I don't know. That'd
We'll
be all
make a
right.
fortune. We'll make a fortune, I'm sure. So, time is money, and I certainly appreciate you taking some time today, Tim, to walk us through this. As I mentioned earlier, we do have demos and things that folks can see on the video. So, if you're listening to the audio only, please flip over to our YouTube channel where you can see all that. Tim, I appreciate your time, and thanks for doing another video interview with carwash.com.
Oh, I'm always glad to, Rich. I appreciate being able to talk to you, and maybe we can work on this new smell-o-vision industry, and maybe we can be the forefront of that together. So that sounds good.
Sounds good. My calendar is open.
Excellent. Excellent.